All right. Welcome everyone to episode 11 of the Pathway to Healing series. I am Paula Elochi. I'm an intuitive transformation coach and owner of Directing Paths. And I have the lovely Miss Colby Jones here, who is an executive leadership coach and the owner and founder of Live2Lead Professional Coaching, LLC. Let me
Yes,
not leave that off because that license is important. Um,
right.
So I'm excited because she's going to talk about what I wish I knew a while ago, which is healthy workplace boundaries. So, but before we get started, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you
Yeah,
do?
sure. Like Paula said, my name is Colby Jones. I am an executive leadership coach. So I help women um, who are in leadership positions or who are small business owners enhance their leadership skills so that they can lead productive teams. So it's more so about understanding your own style, your own leadership style, so that you can engage with others in the best way so that they can be productive and so that you can bring them up as leaders as well, if that's the route that they choose to go. So it's really important for us to know what we bring to the table, what we're lacking, and where we need to make those improvements. Because if we don't, it's hard to develop those around us. So that's a really big focus of what my coaching is around.
I love that. And you know what, especially being a woman in a leadership position, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like this topic is even more so important, you know? So
Yeah.
just getting into the topic of healthy workplace boundaries, what is there a one definition of what a boundary looks like? How would you describe what a healthy workplace boundary is?
So there's not one definition. Everybody is different. Everybody's tolerance levels are different. So what I would say as a healthy workplace boundary is when you're not feeling like your job or your boss or even coworkers are taking advantage of you. That's a big key piece and something that you would want to be mindful of. When you don't feel like that, then that means that hopefully the boundaries that you have set, if you set any, are being respected. So that's an important part of maintaining that boundary at work, because what can happen is if you don't and people take advantage of that and you don't say anything, it's going to continue and it's going to keep getting worse and worse, and then it's a whole snowball effect into negative behaviors, negative actions, negative thoughts that happen if you're not making sure that your boundaries that you set are respected, as well as you respecting others' boundaries that you work with.
No, absolutely. And let's talk on, and I know, congratulations again for your beautiful baby girl.
Thank you. As you can see, I'm in the baby's room right now. The
I
baby has
love
taken
it.
over the whole house. So this is the quiet place for the moment while she's out doing her thing. So see
While
the
she's
crib
out
in the
there.
background.
You know what? And I love, and y'all listen, this woman has not missed a beat. She had this baby and she was like, she's on her path to PhD. So she is the epitome
Yeah.
of I'm going to reach my goal.
Yeah. Thank you.
But you're welcome. But I want to talk about being a mom and having those
Hmm.
boundaries. I know one thing that I struggle with is feeling like I have to overcompensate on times when maybe I have a doctor's appointment for the baby or
Hmm.
um, I'm missing work for something child related. What is a way to start becoming more firm and setting those boundaries when you're parenting as well?
Yeah, so you have to say no. I mean, I tell people this all the time. We get, and if depending on your job, if you're fortunate enough to have some, because I know some people work in jobs where it's just not feasible, but we have paid time off for a reason. You have sick time, you have vacation time, and personal time for a reason, and you need to use it. As a parent, it's essential to be able to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your child, because if you're not going to be at your job long anyways because you're going to burn out. So it's important to make sure that you're letting your job know that, hey, I have an appointment, or my child is sick, or I'm sick. Because when you're sick, you could easily pass it to the child. So now instead of being out 1 or 2 days, now you're out a week because you have to take care of. Now you're sick, and you might have passed it on to your child, and now you have to stay home and take care of your child. Especially with COVID, it's more than important to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your job. If you're fortunate enough to still have one at this point, is to make sure that they understand that that's important. And with being in a director position for the time that I am there, I really make sure that I respect the managers that are under me, respect their job duties at home as well. I'm not one of those people that are going to say, oh, well, you can't take that off because you have a doctor's appointment, or this is due today, you can't take that time off. No, my job as a leader is to say, okay, I understand that you have to take care of that. You have to take care of yourself. What do you have due today that you need help with? Well, how can I help you get through, this time? Because if your
Yeah.
staff and your employees are happy, you're going to have a productive team and you're going to have less turnover. So
Yeah.
looking at it from a leadership perspective, it's really important to respect the boundaries of your team as well.
And I love that you did that spin, because we don't talk about it from the leadership perspective. We talk about it from an employee
Mm-hmm.
perspective, and how you can tell your boss, no, I'm off today, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great way to look at it as well.
Yeah, that's one thing that I talk about in my coaching is empathy. And that's a really big,
Yes.
a really important aspect to think of whenever you're working with your staff. You have to be empathetic to people, especially in times right now. Like, it's more than important to know and to be flexible with people's schedules and the things that they need to take care of. You lose your staff,
That's it.
you're going to be more stressed out as a leader if you can't maintain and help your staff maintain their own health, and that's mental and physical health, because mental health right now, everybody is struggling, whether you have a
Absolutely.
job, whether you don't have a job. Regardless, everybody is struggling right now with COVID, and being contained in your homes, or we know some people ain't doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean,
Right.
they're out having the time of
Right.
their lives right now, but we're talking about the people that are doing what they're supposed to be
Right.
doing. It's tough.
It is. It is. And can you give an example of an unhealthy workplace boundary? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think before I understood what it was, to me, I thought it was more so um, being like someone physically being in your space and you're like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I need space. You know what I mean? Someone who
Yeah.
didn't understand personal space, or asking inappropriate questions. But what is an example of a unhealthy boundary that maybe you've seen?
So physical boundaries, definitely, that should be like number one. Like, stay out of my personal space, please.
Right.
Like, get out of here. But the other part is, um, I'll give my own personal example of a boundary that I allowed to cross. Just because I was kind of scared to say no. Now, this was, before I was in the director position that I was in. I was working as a, mental health professional, just going out in the community, working with individuals that had, severe and persistent mental health issues. So the job is stressful already, right? So one day, we're down staff, and I'm kind of trying to work my way up into a leadership role. I had a manager at the time that, you know so
Mhm.
it was difficult to kind of navigate some of those things. So there would be times that, hey, can you come in, or can you do this, or can you do this extra? Now, salary position, they'll tell you, even though your salary, you're kind of on the clock whenever.
Right.
Please do not let people run you like that. You can
That's a
be
word.
salary all day long, but they still need to respect the time that you are on the clock and the time that you are off the clock. Salary does
Absolutely.
not mean you work 24 hours a day. That is not what that means.
Say it
And if
again.
they do say that means that, then they need to be paying you a whole lot more than what they're paying you. So please
Hmm.
don't ever let any manager, any director, anybody in a leadership position tell you that just because your salary, that you need to work 24 hours a day and you need to be available when they say that they need you.
Yeah,
But back to
that's so
my
important.
example, yeah, going into that, Colby, can you do this? Hey, can you do this? And I was always saying yes, because I'm trying to look towards being in that director role at that time, or being in a leadership role at that time. And whenever I was doing that, I didn't realize that I was taking so much from myself and tapping into so much of that personal time, that I was burning myself out.
Right.
because I had a lack of boundaries, because I didn't want to say no. So it's really making sure that when you're off the clock, that people are respecting that you're off the clock. Now, you don't have to be, disrespectful or, confrontational whenever you're talking about it, but it's really about having good communication with your manager or, whoever your boss, whomever you report to, saying, hey, if 5 o'clock is the end of your day, hey, at 5 o'clock, I just want you to let you know I'm turning my phone off if you have to take a phone home with you, or I'm shutting my laptop off. We're at home now. Most people are at home. Um, I'm shutting the computer down. I'm turning my phone off. I'm not going to be available after 5 o'clock. If it is an
Right.
emergency, make sure you have if some people, work in mental health, working in physical health, sometimes there is a need for things to happen outside of that time frame that you work if an emergency comes up. And that's when you communicate, like, hey, if this comes up, make sure you contact me if you need my support or whatnot. But if it's something that can wait till the next day, it can wait till the next day.
Right.
And
Right.
it's about, if people aren't respecting that, it's about you making sure that they're going to respect it, right? So if they text you or if they call you and it's not an emergency and it's not something that you need to respond to, don't respond. Go learn.
Yep.
People will learn when you
Yep.
stop responding to them at some point.
That was actually going to be my next question, is how do you implement that? But you're
Mm-hmm.
absolutely right, because what happens is they see, okay, she's responding,
Mm-hmm.
so it must be okay, and I'm gonna keep doing it. Versus someone, I think we all know that person at the job who, she's not gonna work, he or she's not gonna work after 4,
Mm-hmm.
and don't call them on a weekend because they're not
Right.
gonna answer their phone.
Right.
But
She
I
want to
think
cuss
some people
out.
are so afraid of losing their job if they say no,
Mm-hmm.
that they let those boundaries just
Yeah.
go.
No, and I mean, if you're experiencing that and that your boundaries are not being respected, then, I always say make sure you go to the source first, have a conversation
Mhm.
once, okay, twice, have it again, the third time, you do what you need to do.
Right.
I mean, because that's clearly showing that they're not respecting your. And I do know that there are some people that get comfort in working outside of those hours, right? I mean, I'm not one of them. I have, worked a full-time job, and then I have my business, and then, I have an 8-week old. I can't believe it. She's 8 weeks.
I
Um,
know.
I know it's going so fast, but I have all of that stuff. So if you really need to work outside of that time frame, communicate that to the people that you're going to be sending stuff to. Like, hey, I'm probably going to email you in the evening. I'm probably going to text you something in the evening. Don't feel like you need to respond to me. It's just my way of making sure that you know this information so I don't forget. Because there's things
Right.
that I forget sometimes. And, before my maternity leave, if I needed to email staff, like, look, I always tell them, don't think you need to respond to my email if I email you on a Saturday or I email you on a Sunday. And it's not going to be mass stuff, but like the way my brain works, I forget a lot of little things. So sometimes the little things do have to be a quick email so that I know you'll see it Monday whenever you come into work.
Yeah. And I like that you said, as a boss, you put in there, hey, don't feel obligated to respond. So you're setting the tone for your employees, saying, I'm not expecting you to do anything outside of the scope of your work.
Mm-hmm.
This is my boundary for you as well. And then
Yeah.
also, I think for some people who are leaders, they might have a hard time with the boundary of what's appropriate with
Mm-hmm.
employees and what's not appropriate without coming off as being a tough boss.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found that to be an issue, or trying to find that balance between, I want to be friendly, but I don't want to be your best
Mm-hmm.
friend kind of thing?
Yeah.
And how do you set that boundary as a boss?
So at first I did. I've been in my position. Well, I've been in that position for a long enough time that now the people that have worked with me know me really well. So they know my expectations, and, they know what I will and what I won't do. Um, so I've been in the mental health field for about 15 years. With that, 10 years at the current job that I'm at, my full-time job. And, that has progressed into leadership roles over time. So when that happens, because I stuck within the same division, a lot of my peers became my employees. So
Oh,
that
wow.
transition, Yeah, over years can be really tough. And I
Yeah.
have lost people who at one point were friends. And then once I moved into my management position the first time, I didn't do a good job at those boundaries, and I will admit that. And I lost friendships because of that. But as growing over time, you understand, like, okay, you put that expectation out there. Like, look, I know we're friends, I know we're cool, but here, this is my expectations for you as an employee. Like, I want you to be successful
Yeah.
because that's my job, is to make sure that my staff and my employees are successful. If you're not successful, I'm not. And I'm not trying to be out here looking bad. So we all gonna look
Right.
good. So here's what, my expectations for you are. Here's what I'm not going to tolerate, which, as a friend, they probably know that, or as a peer. I don't want to say everybody is always friends, but, as a peer, they should probably already know that from you, because if you're
Yeah.
working your way up into a leadership role, you're kind of exerting some of those traits before you're even in that role. So
Right.
they already know the type of personality you have. But like I said, I'm a very empathetic person. So I'm always going to try to work around things first before it gets to okay, like, come on, get it together. Like I try to be really understanding, because everybody has their own personal journeys and you don't know where everybody is in those journeys. So you have to be understanding. If I said something and your response back to me is to snap at me and to be defensive, I need to understand where you're coming from. Because if
Right.
that wasn't the intent of the initial conversation, then we need to figure out, like, okay, so what caused you to react that way? Because that's not how I intended this conversation to go. Or even whenever you feel like I did a live a while ago about crisis management at work, when you have a staff that is confrontational when things are going awry, argument,
Right.
things like that. It's really knowing when you have to take a step back as a
Yeah.
manager. You can't control other people. They're going to be combative if that's their personality, but you have to say, okay, time out. And that's a boundary, like,
Right.
and you have to say it up front. You can't be scared to tell somebody that they're disrespecting you. Because I
Right.
know sometimes it can be hard to say that, especially if it's a peer, if it's somebody that you're trying to make that relationship work. But if you're talking to me in some type of way, or your tone is a tone that I don't like, you have to say, okay, time out. We need to take a break because I don't like the tone that you
Right.
have at this point, where I'm starting to feel disrespected, and that might not be your intention. So maybe we need to take a break and then come back and have this conversation later.
And I like one thing that well, a few things you said, but I really like that the responsibility is not all on the person who's setting the boundary. Like the
Mm-hmm.
responsibility is also on that person who needs to respect the boundaries. So, like you're saying, a peer should, especially someone who you're close to, and maybe you consider a friend, they should want you to succeed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think that I always say when you set boundaries, it really shows you what people really feel about you.
Mm-hmm.
Because those who are in your corner and care about you and want you to succeed, they're going to absolutely make sure that they respect your boundary. And
Mm-hmm.
then those who are not, they're going to start showing themselves,
Yeah.
right? So, no, I think that it's
Definitely.
so important that you made that distinction between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you'll know when if it's not a healthy boundary, you'll get burned out really fast. And if you can't really pinpoint where the burnout is coming from, check your boundaries.
That's good. That's a good piece of advice. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not sure where that burnout is coming from, check your boundaries.
Yeah, because I mean, jobs right now, the actual job duties that you have is stressful, right?
Mhm.
But if if coming to work and doing the actual job that you do is not something that's too bothersome to you, of course it's going to be stressful, whatever. But if you can work through that, then fine. But if you're still feeling burned out, but you're still enjoying doing the job duties, you need to take it back to your work environment.
Mm, that is very good information. Well, I cannot believe that this is such a good conversation. And I feel like there needs to be another part to that. But just so you know, I don't know if you can see the comments on your
Yeah.
end. Uh,
If you like mental health, there's plenty of case manager positions, probably. I don't know. I'm on, you know what? I'm not going to say that because I'm on maternity leave right now and I have no idea what's going on at the moment.
Right.
So give me another month or so.
Right. You're like, I'm in a good place right
Look,
now.
I'm like, yeah, there's positions. I'll probably come back and they'll be like, Colby, no, there's nothing happening right here, right now.
Right. Well, do you want to, can you let us know where to find you? Because I know you have some awesome things coming up in the future. So
Yeah.
you want to explain that and then let us know where we can reach out to
Yeah.
you?
Sure. So my email is colby@live2leadcoaching.com, which Paula, you have, up on the screen. So thank
Mhm.
you for that. I'm also next week I will be beginning early enrollment into my 8-week leadership development program. It's a group coaching program that will be geared towards 8 steps to help you lead a more productive team. But it really focuses on you as a leader, understanding your leadership style, understanding the personalities of the teams that you work with, and how to implement all of those things into helping lead them, and helping build them up as leaders as well. So while we're building ourselves up, we can still continue to build up others around us, because the whole goal of being a good leader is to put people in positions that are underneath of you to be able to fill in for your job when you get a promotion.
I love that.
So we want to make sure that we're building up others around us. So keep an eye out for that. My business page is Colby L. Jones at MHA BCC, and like it's is typed in the was that the ledger that you have, Paula? So follow my business page to stay up to date on that. There will be a link I'm actually sending out today to sign up for my email subscription to keep you up to date on things that are going on with the 8-week group coaching program.
Thank you. I love that. And for all of you guys who have been watching these past 11 weeks, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Make sure you go to Directing Paths because this interview will be replayed quite a few times. Actually, I'm going to keep it posted so you can watch this and also be on the lookout for any new interviews that come on. And again, I am Paula Ilochi, Intuitive Transformation Coach with Directing Paths LLC. I assist individuals who are exiting or recovering from abusive and toxic relationships to reclaim their power, step into their purpose. So feel free to also reach out if that is you and you would like to discuss ways to reclaim your power. So thank
Thank
you
you.
again for joining me. And if
Thank
you
you
could
for
pause
having
for
me.
a
It's fun.
second, what's that?
So thank you for having me. I enjoyed our conversation.
Yes. This is, and we, like I said, we need to have a follow up to this one. But yes, stay
Definitely.
back for a second. I'm gonna go ahead and end the broadcast.
All right. Thank you.